Hello, and welcome to another episode of AI in the Classroom Daily. This is a podcast helping educators make sense of AI without the hype. I'm Dan Cogan-Drew, co-founder, chief academic officer here at Newsella, and I use AI as a thinking partner to prepare each of these episodes because I think the best way to talk honestly about AI in education is to work with it openly. Here's a question I've been thinking about recently. To what extent have we moved as a society from using AI tools to living inside an AI-mediated environment? If we think about this from the perspective of our students, they aren't just encountering AI as features. To some extent, they're actually living inside algorithmic systems. When they search for information, when they watch YouTube, stream Netflix, check email, scroll a feed, even get a recommendation on Spotify, they're all using systems that are actively deciding what they encounter and what they don't. The real question isn't so much, how do I use the systems? The real question is, what does it mean to be literate in a world where algorithmic systems are deciding what we see? That's the question that OECD is trying to answer. This is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. They just released a framework called MAIL, Media and Artificial Intelligence Literacy. And here's what's interesting about it. PISA doesn't say literacy means learning to analyze content better. They say literacy means understanding the infrastructure, understanding the design. In fact, design is a word that appears 21 times in this document. I think this is a reframe that PISA is attempting here, and I think it's interesting, especially because this is about to become an international benchmark. So let me explain what I mean. PISA starts with three foundational ideas. They call them big ideas, and they build everything else up from these. The first is authors and audiences. Who creates messages, for what purpose, for whom, and how do systems and design choices shape both creation and visibility? The second is messages and meanings. That media messages contain values and ideology, and AI systems embed biases in training data and design that shape what outputs you get. And the third is representations and realities. That all media is selective representation, never complete, and AI-generated content can look real but be inaccurate or fabricated. These foundational ideas sit beneath everything else. They set up PISA's core insight, which is that the systems themselves shape what you encounter, not just the content within them. So what does it mean to understand infrastructure? Well, here's what PISA describes what these systems are actually doing. And I'm quoting here. Digital media platforms and AI systems are deliberately designed to capture and hold attention. They accomplish this through features like notifications, in-game rewards, algorithmically promoted content, and like counts, all of which encourage people to keep checking, scrolling, posting, and comparing themselves to others. If you notice what PISA is saying here, these aren't neutral infrastructure. They're deliberately designed. There's that word again. We're talking about the red badge on the email, autoplay on YouTube, notifications that are interrupting your day. All of this is designed, and it's designed to keep you engaged. Most of what we talk about with AI literacy is content. Is the claim true? Is the image real? Is this generated? All of these are good questions. But I think what's interesting is that PISA is pointing at something earlier up the chain. Why are you seeing this at all? Who designed it to reach you, and what about that design is going to keep you hooked? Here's the second part, quoting again. The rapid advancement of algorithmic and AI personalization further complicates this media environment and has fragmented audiences, fostered the emergence of echo chambers and filter bubbles, and made it easier to monetize attention. Recommendation systems that are almost always proprietary can reinforce echo chambers, filter out dissenting information, and push users towards synthetic realities curated to their existing beliefs or consumer profiles. So this is a system that isn't designed just to engage you, but to personalize what you specifically see. And we know this from all of our interactions with media. My YouTube feed is different than my friends. My Netflix home screen is different from my children's, for example. My Google search results are going to be ranked differently based upon my history. Every one of our students is going to get a custom-built information environment. And what's insidious here, especially for students who don't have as much lived experience as the adults who work with them, is that none of us can see what's been filtered out. If an algorithm decides that I don't see a perspective, I'll never know that it was there. You might think you're seeing the internet, but what you're in fact seeing is a filtered, personalized version. And the infrastructure has already decided what you encounter even before you know you're making a choice. Understanding infrastructure, therefore, means understanding what perspective am I not seeing, what algorithm decided that. So why does it work this way? Here's what PISA says. The technology industry, driven by economic and political interests, shapes how AI systems are developed and deployed, and influences how people access, create, and share information. To put it plainly, the infrastructure isn't an accident. It's designed specifically to make money. And when you understand that, you understand that the economic incentive is engagement and not truth, you understand why the system is working the way it does, why it may rank outrage higher, why it interrupts you with notifications. This is the business model, in effect. So understanding infrastructure also means understanding who benefits from me seeing this and what are they optimizing for. So when students are using AI tools, ChatGPT, image generators, recommendation systems, what they get back is also infrastructure in PISA's way of thinking. The training data and design choices underlying AI systems embed values and biases that shape the outputs that users receive. So the answer ChatGPT gives you isn't neutral. It's shaped by what data trained it, what humans decided to filter or amplify, what choices, again, that designers have made. So what does PISA say literacy actually looks like in this world? Well, they say to interpret messages critically, learners must be equipped to recognize the strategies used to construct and convey meaning, to question whose interests are served, and to identify cues or patterns that may signal manipulation or bias. This includes analyzing the rhetorical, visual, and algorithmic techniques employed, as well as understanding what messages are being filtered out by AI systems and how AI-generated content can intentionally or inadvertently reinforce certain ideologies or values. And it goes on to say, competent students are also aware of the economic and social incentives that drive digital media production, whether a message is designed to inform, persuade, provoke outrage, generate profit, and adjust their evaluation strategies accordingly. So this is the reframe. Literacy isn't just, is this true? It's, why did I see this? What perspective is missing? Who benefits from me seeing this? Understanding the infrastructure goes far beyond just analyzing the content. Why I think all of this matters right now is that the OECD is turning this framework into an international assessment. PISA, which measures how students across the world perform in reading, math, and science, is going to be adding media and AI literacy in 2029. This means that students around the world are going to be assessed on whether they understand infrastructure as we've been describing it. Results are going to be published, countries will be compared as they are currently in reading, math, and science. Suddenly, how your students understand these systems is going to be measured against how students in other countries understand them. But I think beyond the assessment, rankings and comparisons that I'm sure will gain a lot of media attention, this matters because your students are already living in these algorithmic environments. They're already encountering systems designed to engage them, personalize what they see, and optimize for profit. They deserve to know that literacy isn't just about analyzing content, it's about understanding the infrastructure that decided to show them that content in the first place. PISA is saying that is really foundational, and in 3 years, the world is going to start measuring it. So I'm very curious, when you think about your students navigating algorithmic systems, where does your teaching start? To what extent do you balance your emphasis on content and infrastructure? I would love to know how you're thinking about this, what your students' response has been, and whether the OECD framing that I've just described changes your perspective. As always, thanks for listening to AI in the Classroom Daily. We will see you again tomorrow.